Awesome. All right. So you asked me the question, what has martial art taught me when it comes to failure? That's a very good question. And first of all, just hearing the word failure, a lot of people look at it as something negative or something that's wrong or something that if you fail, that means you're a failure. And that couldn't be furthest from the truth. So being a martial art practitioner, failure has taught me a lot about myself and also about a lot about life. I don't know who it was, but it was a famous inventor. He did something 1,000 times, and all 1,000 times he failed. And I believe he was being interviewed, and somebody was like, "How do you feel failing 1,000 times?" And his remark was simple, but yet profound. He says, "Even though I failed 1,000 times, I know 1,000 ways of not to do that particular thing." So failure is nothing more or nothing less than just feedback. And a lot of times we need feedback in order to grow. Sometimes the greatest inventions are not like you do it the first time and everything is a success and it's a buzz. Those times are good, and if you have them, then God bless you. But it's when you fail, you begin to learn certain things that maybe if you would have succeeded, you would not have learned. So I really believe in life, failure is a great part of life. And one of my favorite authors in leadership, John Maxwell, I never read this particular book, but he has a book called Failing Forward. And so you can just imagine that the title of the book alone, Failing Forward. So I really believe that failure is not something to be shunned. It is not something to be made fun of or something to not embrace. I really believe that failure is a part of life, and failure opens you up to other opportunities. And sometimes within that failure, there's a hidden opportunity. But if you don't know that there's a hidden opportunity and you just get stuck at your failure, you can kind of begin to maybe not look at that situation or that failure in a healthy way. In martial arts, we have a punching bag, right? There's punching bags behind me. And whether you use gloves to hit the bag or just bare knuckles, the punching bag is nothing more or nothing less than feedback, okay? So it's one thing to throw punches in the air and look good, right? That's fine. But can you throw punches when you hit something? Now, when you hit something, you're going to feel a sting. You're going to feel stuff in your joints. If your wrist is not strong, it may buckle. So, but if you don't have the punching bag to hit, you don't necessarily have that feedback. And that's what failure is. Failure is an opportunity to give you feedback. And that's what you want in life. So as a martial art practitioner, I have failed more times than I have succeeded, but it's feedback. And that's how you grow. Everything is not always set up where you're in a situation and just everything is going well. We want that, but then truth be told, we really don't want that. Sometimes in life, you have to let failure take the lead. Now, if you can get a success out of a certain situation, then by all means, go for it. But aside from that, don't be afraid to fail, because when you fail, you learn things about that situation. If you're working with people, you learn things about people. And more importantly, when you fail, you learn things about yourself. Now, I'm not talking about failing where you hurt yourself or you do something where where it really costs you a lot if you can avoid it. But don't be afraid of failure. And to answer the question, how has martial art played? How has studying martial art teach me about failure? Sometimes when Well, I don't want to put this out there, but I want to be transparent. And I try to be careful of what information I put out on the World Wide Web, even though it's not called the web anymore, it's called the internet. But anyway, one of the problems I used to have was coordination in martial arts. You know, it's like that concept where you hit the top of your head and you rub your belly at the same time. Like, can you do that? And so I used to fail in certain movements because I didn't have the coordinations down. But when I took time, and this is really key and important, and I hope is for someone, at least one person, when I took the time to be patient with myself, then I was able to make gains, right? So with coordination where, you know, this hand is doing something, this hand is doing something, this foot is doing something, and you're moving. So you got all these things going on at one time, you know, your brain have to keep up with it. So one of my weak spots was coordination. And I appreciate this question because one of my teachers, I've had over 9 teachers in martial arts, and I still have a lot of instructors today. I'm not only a teacher, I'm also a student. But one of my teachers, he taught me this drill, and this was literally the last drill from this particular teacher who I really love. I love all my teachers, let me just make that clear. But this one particular teacher, he had, like, really, if I may, he had a special grace. And, you know, I guess since we're talking about him, this man knew 108 styles. And I don't want to put all his business out there, but his grandfather was a Buddhist monk. And his grandfather taught him at the age of 3, just to give you some context. But anyway, I digress. So let me talk about what he taught me. He taught me a drill where he says, I'm going to teach you how to hit any person anytime you want at will. And the drill was simple. And truth be told, when I worked with this USA Olympian, I won't say his name, I taught him this drill as well, but I think I mixed it up a little bit and it helped him. So to get back to the point and to help develop my coordination, and this was like maybe over 25 years ago, he would have me go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, but I'll be moving my knee at the same time. So in his style of martial arts, he taught whenever we hit a person, we hit them 12 to 25 times before we back up. And so in order to hit a person 12 to 25 times, everything is not straight. You're coming around, you're moving, blah, 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 you know, over, low, whatever, right? So my coordination was developed by a simple step of, it looks like nothing, but when you're walking and you're doing it, you're learning how to move different body parts at the same time. And so if it wasn't for the failure of being discoordinated, and if that's not a word, it's a word now, but if it wasn't for the failure of being uncoordinated or not being organized with your movements, but a discoordination, like no coordination, COORDINATION. Anyway, I need to do that for myself. But that taught me that I had to be patient with myself. I had to work with myself. And that's what failure does. Failure is feedback. And you don't hide that feedback, but you work with that feedback. And so I'm not saying I'm out of the woods with coordination, but I do have a healthy sense of coordination today because of keep working on my coordination along with other martial art moves. So I appreciate failure today, and I wouldn't shun failure, and neither should you or anyone shun failure because it's feedback, and that's what you want. You want healthy feedback. And thank you for that question.